Okay, let's start with it. It says we use various materials for our basic needs. Obviously, we use different kinds of materials in our daily life, and how they are. Some of them are found in nature, and some of them have been made by human efforts, obviously. So, we need to remember that we have two types of resources. One would be natural, another would be man-made. Natural would be like which we get from nature. That can be air, that can be water, that can be soil. Man-made, if we talk about whatever we are using, like laptop, we can have phone as well. We can have a fan as well, right? These all things would come under the man-made resources. So remember, whatever we are obtaining from nature would be a natural one. Whatever you are obtaining from nature would be a natural resource. Remember this. Now we have two types of natural resources. They are broadly classified as inexhaustible, and the other one is exhaustible. What is inexhaustible in this case? That is present in unlimited quantity in nature. Remember, whatever is in unlimited quantity in nature, बहुत सारी quantity है जिसकी, that would be inexhaustible, and they are not likely to be exhausted very easily by human activities. They can be sunlight, they can be air. So remember, whatever inexhaustible is there, that would be unlimited quantity in nature, and they are not likely to be exhausted by human activities. If you talk about the exhaustible one, that would be exhausted by human activities. If you are doing some human activities and you are using it very greedily, obviously these things would get vanished one day because they are limited in quantity. That can be forest, that can be wildlife, that can be minerals, that can be coal, that can be petroleum, that can be natural gas. So remember this. This is a very important part from this chapter, that it talks about inexhaustible and the exhaustible natural resources. Inexhaustible would be not likely to be exhausted by human activity. Exhaustible would be they can be exhausted by human activities. Now, what they have given as an example here, let's try to understand this as well. So they are saying take some container, fill them with popcorn, peanuts, roasted gram, peas, and all these things, and divide students into groups of 7. 7 each का हमें एक ग्रुप बनाना है, ठीक है, and label them as 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. Label them as first, second and third generation respectively. हमें क्या करना है, सबको फर्स्ट जनरेशन, सेकेंड जनरेशन, थर्ड जनरेशन, फोर्थ जनरेशन बना देना. These subgroups represent the consumers. Subgroups किसका पार्ट है, consumers का पार्ट है. As population is growing, second and third generation have larger number of consumers. They are saying as population we know is increasing, second and the third generation have larger number of consumers obviously. So put one full container for each group on a table. Ask consumers of the first generation from each group to consume eatables from the container of their group. हमें क्या बोलना है कि फर्स्ट जनरेशन वाले कंज्यूम करना शुरू करो whatever eatables you have. Now ask the second generation consumers from each group to do the same. Ask student to observe carefully the availability of eatables in each container. If something is left in the container, ask third generation from each group to consume it. Now finally observe whether all the consumer of the third generation got the eatables or not. Also observe if anything is still left in any of the container. So this is a very simple example to understand. Like first generation would be asked from the full container to have something, to have eatables. Okay, they will consume let's say 4 to 5. Now it would the container of the first generation would be passed on to the second generation. Let's say now we have only 4 eatables present, and second generation let's say have 3 members in it. Now how many left? 1 left only. let's say third generation is there, and third generation has, let's say, 5 people in it. So will they be able to get the whole eatable now? They won't be able to get the whole eatable. They are actually just trying to explain us that if we would not understand how to use our resources wisely, then how we will be able to transfer these resources to the next generation we would have. So they are basically trying to make us understand how next generation would survive on this small parts we are leaving for them. So it is important that we shouldn't be greedy, and we should actually whatever we can save, we should save for our coming generation. So that's what it says. So here in this case it says each group may have a different consumption pattern. That's what we have understood. That container में हमने eatables लिए, और eatables नेक्स्ट जनरेशन्स तक बहुत कम पहुंच रहे थे, और लास्ट तक की जनरेशन में तो बिल्कुल ही खत्म हो गए. सो दे आर बेसिकली ट्राइंग टू टेल अस अबाउट द resources we are leaving for our coming generation. Okay, now moving to the last part of it, it says in this chapter we will learn about some exhaustible natural resources like coal is there, petroleum is there, natural gas is there. So these were actually formed from the dead remains. How we get to have coal, petroleum and natural gas, it is all because of the dead remains of living organisms. They get buried under the soil and they get compressed, and temperature rises, and under the high pressure these dead plants would be getting converted to coal. And this is what fossil fuel is about. Let's try to understand the properties of coal now. So remember, it is first of all hard as stone. Second, it is black in color. These are nothing but the properties. What I am telling you, properties of coal. Make a note of it. The first is hard as stone. Second is black in color, and it can be used as fuel, that is used to cook food. It was used in railway engines that would be producing steam. That basically helps them to have electricity. It is also used in thermal power, as I told you, to produce electricity, because if we would burn coal, it would be releasing a good amount of heat energy, and that heat energy can be converted into electricity. Last but not the least, coal is also used as fuel in various industries. इंडस्ट्रीज में कोल को बहुत ज़्यादा यूज़ किया जाता है as a fuel. Now let's try to discuss their story. Let's discuss the story of coal now. So what does it say? Where do we get coal from, and how is it formed? So coal is basically we get it from the under the soil. And how we get it? Because the most of the things that the remains of the organisms goes under the soil, and they get deposited and they get compressed, and that's how the coal is made. So it says about 300 million years ago, the earth had dense forest. The earth used to have dense forest in wetland areas, and there, due to the natural processes like flooding, they are saying, because of flooding, these forests got buried under the soil. It got buried under the soil, the remains. So in this one, it says as more soil deposited over them, they were compressed. As soon as the soil would be covering that position, it would get compressed, and the temperature would rise, and they sank and deeper. Here in this case, what they are trying to explain us is that forest got buried under the soil. This is the upper layer of the soil, and most of the things are actually going inside the soil, and they are being compressed. And if they would get compressed and temperature would rose to let's say higher, they would get sank deeper and deeper, and they would have their high pressure inside the soil, and they would have high temperature as well, and dead plants may get slowly converted to coal. And that is how a coal is formed. How coal is formed, it is under the soil, and it is compressed over the years. The dead remains of the plant and we can say the animals as well, they would be like the temperature would be rising, pressure would be increasing, then these all things would be actually responsible for converting dead plants into coal very easily. And as we know that coal contains mainly carbon, the slow process of conversion of dead vegetation into coal is called carbonization. Remember, this is very important. Carbonization. Mark it in your book that carbonization is a process that would be converting dead vegetation into coal. This whole process is carbonization. Then since it was formed from the remains of vegetation, coal is also called a fossil fuel because it has been formed because of the remains of the vegetation. So remember, it is carbonization, the whole process is carbonization. It would be conversion of dead vegetation into coal. And how? Because the forest got buried under the soil and all the remains has been converted into the coal. The dead plants has been converted into the coal because of the high pressure and the high temperature. Okay. Now it says that we have when heated in air, coal burns and produce mainly carbon dioxide gas. Coal is there and coal को हमें क्या करना है? We have to burn it in the presence of oxygen. How it would be like reacting? It would be giving us carbon dioxide gas. That's what it does. अगर आप coal को in the presence of oxygen burn करते हो तो you would get carbon dioxide gas as a resultant. Now coal they are saying is processed in industry to get some useful products. What useful products we get? It can be coke, it can be coal, it can be coal tar, and it can be coal gas. What all things we have from coal? We get three things, that is coke, then we have a coal tar, then I have a coal gas. One of them is solid, one of them is a liquid in nature, and one of them is gaseous in nature. So the first one, which is coke, it is tough. Tough basically means that it is hard in structure. Porous is there. Porous basically means that it has some pores over it, small holes over it. And then black substance. This one is a solid substance. It is almost pure form of carbon. Coke is used in manufacture of steel and extraction of many metals. Remember, this is used in the manufacturing of steel and secondly extraction of many metals. जैसे हमें steel का manufacturing करना होता है ना, तो what we make use of coke. And if I want to, let's say, extract metals, then I would be using coke. Then only I would be having metals from it. Then I have is coal tar. Coal tar is black in color. It is a thick liquid and it has a unpleasant smell. And secondly, it is a mixture of about how many substances? 200 substances. The products we obtain from coal tar are used for starting materials for manufacturing various substances. Like in everyday life, if we talk about synthetic dyes are there. हम dyes को बना सकते हैं इससे. Drugs बना सकते हैं. Explosives can be made. Perfumes can be made, plastics can be made, paints can be made, photographic materials can be made, roofing materials can be made. So these all things are actually helpful in having like if like I want to make these all things, I need coal tar for it. Manufacturing के लिए क्या चाहिए हमें? Coal tar. Now we know that naphthalene balls are there. किसका क्या use होता है? Basically to repel moths. We put it in our clothes so that they don't get like कभी कभार क्या होता है कि खराब कर देते हैं मॉथ्स वगैरह इंसेक्ट्स वगैरह. तो अगर नैप्थलिन बॉल्स हम उसमें डाल देना तो they won't get used to it. Okay, then these days bitumen is there. A part of coal is there only. A petroleum product is used in place of coal tar for metaling the roads. Remember, this is very important. They will ask you what is the role of bitumen. बिटुमेन का रोल क्या होता है? मेटलिंग करना रोड्स पे। अभी आपने देखा रोड्स बनते हो तो एक बाद में लास्ट में एक सब्सटेंस डालते हैं, वो कोल टार सा काला सा होता है बिल्कुल, लास्ट में एक सब्सटेंस डलता है लिक्विड सा, बिटुमेन ही होता है वो। तो अगर मेटलिंग करनी होती है ना इनकी रोड्स की, तो आजकल बिटुमेन यूज किया जा रहा है कोल टार की बजाय। Now we have is coal gas. Coal gas is there and this is a gas we have and it is obtained during the processing of coal to get coke. हमें ये एक जब हम कोल से कोक बना रहे होते हैं ना तब हमें एक गैस निकलती हुई मिलती है, that is known as coal gas. It is used as a fuel in many industries. Again, जो हमारे ये गैस है ना coal gas, it is used as a fuel in many industries. It is basically helping in generating energy. Now we have the next part, which is petroleum. And how do we use petrol? Petrol and diesels are actually natural resources and they are used in heavy motor vehicles like trucks can be there, tractors are there. They run on diesel actually, and petrol is used for light vehicles. Light automobiles, like petrol is used for automobiles, light automobiles like motorcycles, scooters and cars, whereas heavy motor vehicles make use of diesel, and both of them are obtained from petroleum, petrol and diesel. And petroleum, remember, is derived from word petra, that is rock, and oleum basically means oil, as it is mined from between the rocks under earth. हमें कहाँ से मिलता है पेट्रोलियम? We get to have it from the rocks, that too under the earth. Do you know how petroleum is formed? Petroleum actually was formed from organisms living in the sea. Where do we get petroleum from? The organisms are there and they are living in the sea. As these organisms died, their bodies settled at the bottom of the sea. हुआ क्या कि कुछ जैसे ऑर्गेनिजम्स मर गए और वो सी में बरीड हो जाएंगे, बेसिकली नीचे चले जाएंगे, बिल्कुल नीचे चले जाएंगे, सैंड के अंदर चले गए, क्ले के अंदर चले गए, कवर होते जाएंगे लेयर्स से। एंड आफ्टर मिलियन ऑफ ईयर्स, एब्सेंस ऑफ एयर की वजह से, हाई टेम्परेचर की वजह से, हाई प्रेशर की वजह से, दे विल गेट टू बी फॉर्म्ड इनटू पेट्रोलियम और द नेचुरल गैस। हमें पेट्रोलियम भी वहीं से मिलता है, नेचुरल गैस भी वहीं से मिलता है। We will now try to understand that how we get to have petroleum and the natural gases. So here in this case you can see this is basically the water we have, the sea we have, and under it you can see that we have impervious rocks are there, reservoir rock is there as well, and in between it you are having water, you are having oil, you are having gas in it. So you can understand that water and oil cannot mix with each other, oil and gas cannot mix with each other, and these are basically the wells. What are wells used for? They would be extracting the gas from here, they would be extracting the oil from here. So that's how the petroleum and the natural gas deposits are formed inside the sea. And these organisms when die, they get to convert into petrol or the natural gas. And how we have a refining of petroleum? Actually, petroleum has many impurities in it, or you can say petroleum has many constituents in it. So therefore we need to obtain different things from the refining process. So as we know, petroleum is a dark oily liquid. It has very unpleasant odor. It is a mixture of various constituents like petroleum is there, petrol is there, diesel is there, lubricating oil is there, paraffin wax is there. So the process of separating the various constituents, as I told you that petroleum has these all constituents. See, petroleum gas is there, petrol is there, kerosene is there, diesel is there, lubricating oil is there, paraffin wax is there, bitumen is there. These all things we need to obtain from the petroleum. So there how petroleum refinery is there And at various steps, we get to have diesel, we get to have petrol, we get to have kerosene, and we get to have the lubricating oil as well. So these things are actually the part of petroleum, remember. And remember why it is known as black coal, because it is of great commercial importance. Then comes the natural gas. As we know, it is a very important fossil fuel these days. Why? Because it is very easy to transport through pipes. And we know that it can be stored under high pressure. As we know, it can be compressed natural gas. So yes, CNG is basically a very helpful gas, and it is used for the power generation. Nowadays, it is being used as a fuel for transporting vehicles. In vehicles, we get to have fuel as CNG. Why? Because it is very less polluting, and it is one of the cleaner fuel we have. Now remember, the greatest advantage of CNG is that it can be used directly for burning, because we can use it burning in homes, and it can be used in factories where it can be supplied through pipes. So basically we have networks these days. अब तो हमारे यहाँ पे pipelines आ गई हैं, we know. And what they are transporting in it? CNG only. Then we have natural gases there, and it is also used as a starting material for the manufacture of a number of chemicals and fertilizers. So what you can do it from? You can manufacture chemicals and different fertilizers from it. And we know that India has a vast reserve of natural gas. In our country, natural gas has been found in. There is Tripura, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and in the Krishna Godavari Delta as well. We get to have natural gas in these all states. Tripura is there, Rajasthan is there, Maharashtra is there, then Krishna Godavari Delta is there. So remember, all the natural gases would be there. Natural gas we can obtain from is Tripura, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Krishna Godavari Delta. Now comes the some natural resources are limited. Yes, they are limited obviously, because if we talk about coal and petroleum and fossil fuels, they take millions of years to get converted into these fuels. They would be taking like millions of years to be converted into these fuels. So that's why we need to ensure that we are using it very wisely. Because if we won't use it wisely, the future generation won't be able to see these types of fossil fuels in near future. On the other hand, the known reserves for of these will last only a few hundred years. They are saying we know that we have reserves for fossil fuels, but as we are using it now, it would not take more than 100 years to finish it up all. Moreover, burning of these fuels is a major cause of air pollution. If we burn these things, coal, petroleum, fossil fuels, they basically would be leaving some residue, like carbon dioxide they can release. That is a cause of air pollution. Their use is also linked to global warming. They are saying if you are using them, they would cause global warming. And it is therefore necessary that we use these fuels only when absolutely necessary. जब तक हमें लगता नहीं है कि हाँ बहुत ज़रूरत है फ्यूल्स की और हमें यूज़ करना है, तो तभी यूज़ करना चाहिए. Otherwise we should skip it. This will result in better environment, they are saying. What it can do is it can make us have a better environment, then smaller risk of global warming can be there, then their availability for a longer period of time is there. And India, if we talk about, PCRA is there. What is PCRA? Petroleum Conservation Research Association, that advises people how to save petrol and diesel. What they say, they give 4 tips regarding that. पहले बोलते हैं कि ड्राइव करो कांस्टेंट स्पीड पे एंड मॉडरेट स्पीड पे. इससे क्या होता है दैट फ्यूल ज़्यादा नहीं लगता हमारा. सेकेंड केस में बोलते हैं स्विच ऑफ द इंजन एट ट्रैफिक लाइट्स और एट प्लेस वेयर यू हैव टू वेट. जहाँ पे भी आप रुके हुए हो वहाँ पे बोलते हैं कि स्विच ऑफ कर दो अपना इंजन. इससे क्या होगा, वी वुड बी सेविंग द पेट्रोल. देन थर्ड इट सेज इंश्योर करेक्ट टायर प्रेशर. इससे क्या होता है, करेक्ट टायर प्रेशर से that if you would have correct tire pressure, like speed can be maintained in this case. And then they are saying ensure regular maintenance of the vehicle. This is very important, because if you would have clean or maintained car, it won't take good like it would be like having using a appropriate amount of petrol or diesel, whatever you are using as a fuel. Okay, so we need to ensure these four factors. ये factors हमें ensure करके रखने हैं. And who has given these four factors? It was given by PCRA, and you should know the full form of PCRA, what it is: Petroleum Conservation Research Association, because that would be telling us about how to save petrol and diesel.